So there's three things that I'm not a big fan of. One of them is overly squashed, overly compressed, super loud mixes with no dynamics. Two, two is one knob plugins. I usually don't find them very attractive. And three is overly compressed, smashed, destroyed mixes with no dynamics. How's this gonna go? Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Great Big Plugin Show. Today we're talking about one that I'm actually really excited about, despite my, sensationalist little intro there. This is a new plugin from a new company, new kid on the block named Music Hack. This is the brainchild of a mixing engineer named Stan Green, who's done a whole bunch of really cool stuff. You can look him up. We'll talk about that. And I gotta say, like I've been checking this out, and I was told about it a little early on. I've gotten to put my hands on it, and I'm actually pretty impressed, despite all of the things that would normally turn me off to a plugin like this. So, without kind of pontificating on that too much further, we'll dive into it pretty quick here. As always, if you haven't yet, please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications, do all the things. It does help us to keep this show going, and we greatly appreciate it. This show is put on by Puremix. Check us out at puremix.com. We do all kinds of mixing tutorials with all of the greatest guys out there. There's so much content on the site. There's plugins to be included, and just so many things that you'll love. I won't go off on it all right now, but let's dive in. Let's take a look at the website as we do. So here it is. This is the Music Hack website for their first plugin master plan. At the beginning of it, it says crystal clear, stupid loud with an asterisk. We're going to check out the asterisk in a minute because it's possibly the greatest marketing thing ever done. Okay, so looking down through here, we've got the plugin. It's not exactly a one knob. We've got maybe six knobs, three, four, five, six, and some other options on the bottom of it. Looking at pricing, they do a 1-year license or a forever license. So you have your options there. You can buy with PayPal, and they have a 5-day free trial. The description is Master Plan is a complete mastering workflow with a killer loudness circuit designed for maximum ease of use and a no compromise approach to quality. Drop in, rock out. What you get: crystal clear loudness circuit, fine-tuned analog inspired saturation, no nonsense imaging and tone controls for clarity and creativity, fix-it buttons for demudding the mix, removing harshness, and adding glue. Physical tape emulation. You can audition some different speaker models like NS10s and a phone and all that stuff. Then the specs for it. So here's their recommended use at the bottom. This is pretty great. Quick start. So throw your master bus plugins in the trash. And I think that they want you to go as far as to take the installers or the actual VST AAX files, put them on a USB drive, take that drive out to the street, have somebody run it over, put it in a bucket of water, and then throw it in the trash. Then you insert master plan, select the quick master preset, turn up the loud knob, and enjoy. All of this stuff, I have to say, like, the first time that I saw this, I was like, I hope this is going to be good, because Stan's awesome. The guys are awesome over at Music Hack, and all of that stuff it's basically all things that I'm not super stoked on. But I tried it anyway, and we're gonna talk about that. So back to this asterisk thing. You click that, and it brings you down to the bottom where it says, "We do not endorse the loudness wars, but if you happen to get into a war and it's about loudness, you will win." So pretty cool. All right, I love that phrase there. So pretty neat. So the spoiler alert is that I do like this thing, and we're going to check it out here on a whole bunch of mixes. I've got mixes pulled up from Vance Powell, Matt Ross Spang, Rich Keller, and Angel Lopez. That's a rough mix, and Fab DuPont. So we'll dive into that. And let me go over to Pro Tools here. I have a session pulled up, and this just has all of our mixes in it. So up at the top, we have Rich Keller. We're going to start with that one. And let me bring up the plugin here. So here it is. I have it in XL mode. You can change the size of it over here on the right. And I happen to find XL pretty comfortable, especially on the screen. And so you guys can see it. We'll go over the controls here. And first up, we have an input knob. Then we have a low band, high band, and a loud knob. Then we have a wide knob. Up in the upper right, we have options for bypass and unity gain, which is much appreciated that that's on there. An output knob. Then over here, we've got some different emulations of speakers that you can check out. There's a mono button on there, which I find pretty handy, a dim button, and an off button. Down at the bottom, we've got extra controls for thick, clean, multi, smooth, calm, 2x, tape. So all of that is super cool. To bypass each of these, I can click on each one of the controls and it will, bypass that section of the plugin. That works on the low, high, loud, and wide. And then further at the bottom, we've got some numbers for when you're playing video games and you want to get those numbers as high as you can. You can do that down there. So LUFS integrated and LUFS short term. Then we've got peak for true peak and what the crest of it is. So I'm going to have decibel pulled up while we're messing around with this today. And I'm going to be using that with my presets so we can kind of monitor those things as well and see how they're working out. And I'll close that for now. But before we get started, I want to go over to the manual because with one knob plugins like this, when it just says loud, it's like, cool, what's that doing? We read on the website, it's like a limiter / clipper circuit. Then we've got low band, high band, low wear, high wear. I don't know. One cool thing about this is it forces you to use your ears. The less cool thing is if we're talking about mastering, I kind of want to know that information as well as I'm going in there, especially if I'm, considering throwing out other stuff. So let's pull up the website here. So let me go back and we'll go over to our site. I've got the manual pulled up and we'll just read through it a little bit. So setup thing, they're suggesting that you remove all the plugins from your Master Bus 2 track. There's something about that, like, your mileage may vary, but if you have a super dialed in 2 bus and you've been mixing into it, that would be the sound of your mix. And it seems weird to me that you would pull that stuff off there and then insert master plan and try it. But you might do it to great effect and have some luck with it. Amplify, adjust loud until the LUFS short term and integrated are mostly green and white. So they're going back to the video game thing. They're saying turn it up until it's like in the green for what they think the loudness target should be. You have the meters. You can adjust that to your own taste. Tune, adjust the low and high controls, and then expand, turn up wide until it feels like your track comes alive. Bring it back if things get too spacey. Fix is you can use, if it's muddy, you can flip on clean. That'll do some low mud cleanup. If it's harsh, flip on calm. Thin, thick on thick, adjust the things. Style, you can use smooth and tape for some glue. That is going to be some mixed bus compression. And some other stuff. I won't go through reading the whole thing here, but with the controls, loud is a limiter clipper circuit. Okay, so we know that we're going to be using that to crank things up. They are saying that they're doing phase coherent stereo depth. If you've seen the mix tank takeovers that I do, one of the things that we talk about on there all the time is the use of stereo wideners and people kind of going too far. So we're going to experiment with this thing and see how it feels when we turn up the wide knob. A lot of people know, like, if you've seen those things, I'm not a super huge fan of ones that cause phasiness when you're trying to expand it out of the speakers. I think there's a lot of cool ways to do that that don't necessarily include doing phase smear on your mix. So we'll be checking out if this one does that or not. And then some more explanation for the other things. The multi-band section on here, I'll skip to that. It says no nonsense multipressor. When enabled, use the low, mid, and high sliders to control the amount of gain reduction on those bands of your mix. They're not telling us what those bands are, which is okay. It's more of a use your ears kind of vibe here, which I dig. And there's some other stuff about the calm tape in and out and all that stuff. They've got some tips and tricks at the bottom. So they're saying push, don't shove. So Master Plan has an excellent loudness circuit that can often add plus 4 dB or more into a track without flattening your drums or audibly distorting. It says that it's much louder than other limiters, compressors, and clippers, which deaden your drums or start to snap and growl too early unless you do a lot of hand holding. When Master Plan is shoved too hard, it behaves like a clicker or a clipper, taking too much heat. And if you start to hear the bass growl or a pop in the front of your kick, ease up. Less is more. So I love that. When I was reading through this and through some of the conversations I've had, it's not about for them, it's not about trying to just make the thing as overtly loud as possible and make it uncomfortable to listen to. I think that they're saying like use good taste when you're using it, and I appreciate that from those guys. So one of the things that's been like a huge struggle really forever with the loudness wars, but I'm getting more rough mixes these days that are like -6 LUFS, -4 LUFS, and it just gets crazy because you send a mix back to the client. They're used to hearing the rough that way, and when your mix comes in quieter, they immediately think like, it doesn't sound as like put together as the rough did. Well, the rough was like super, super put together. So this is something that is exciting as another tool to help you kind of fight that loudness war, as they said. Okay, cool. They have credits in there, all that stuff. Let's dive back into Pro Tools and get to some examples. So here we go. Go back over to Pro Tools. And I've got a song called Tidal Wave from Jared Evan, mixed by Rich Keller, pulled up. I've got the plugin and bypass right now, and let's just pick a section of the song here, and we'll check out what things sound like. So here we go. Stand by here.
Get up, but it falls down to the floor, and you're on the boulevard of your soul. It's so empty when you look around. Whoa. Top of the rainstorm, and I'm coming through the clouds in the same zone. Catch me in the sky when the rainfall, raincoat. Able to sink, but I'ma drown if I stay afloat. That's how the game goes. Maybe it'll change though. My feelings, maybe I'm like Wayne though. No sinner, I ain't gotta slide when I'm home just to get me on the base. Finish up the race.
Feels like this when you stressed out. Get my head all the way down. It's a maze when you get down. I'm already lost. The wave when I come down. I'm not able to get out alive. Whoa.
Okay, so some things that I was listening to as I was going through, and what I would normally listen to in a mix if I was doing a mastering job is how present is the lead vocal, how wide is the mix, what are the main elements of the mix that are driving everything forward, and the percussion is very important in this. It's sticking out a bit. It's on top of the mix. The vocal is very present in the center. And these are things that they're important mix decisions that I don't want to destroy. So let's see where we're kind of sitting with decibel on the level of this mix right now. So I'm going to play it one more time, and those are things that you can listen for too at home. Pay attention to the lead vocal in the verse, pay attention to what happens on the chorus, and all the other elements, pay attention to the bottom of the record, all that stuff. Here we go.
Get up, but it falls down to the floor, and you're on the boulevard of your soul. It's so empty when you look around. Whoa. Top of the rainstorm, and I'm coming through the clouds in the same zone. Catch me in the sky when the rainfall, raincoat. Able to sink, but I'ma drown if I stay afloat. That's how the game goes. Maybe it'll change though. My feelings, maybe I'm like Wayne though. No sinner, I ain't gotta slide when I'm home just to get me on the base. Finish up the race.
Feels like this when you stressed out. Get my head all the way down.
All right, Rich Keller on the mix, killing it. So let's go in here and let's start playing with some stuff. So first thing I'm gonna do is hit unity gain, and then let's just start bringing up the loud knob and see what happens to it. Here we go.
Get up, but it falls down to the floor, and you're on the boulevard of your soul. It's so empty when you look around. Whoa. Top of the rainstorm, and I'm coming through the clouds in the same zone. Catch me in the sky when the rainfall, raincoat. Able to sink, but I'ma drown if I stay afloat. That's how the game goes. Maybe it'll change though. My feelings, maybe I'm like Wayne though. No sinner, I ain't gotta slide when I'm home just to get me on the base. Finish up the race.
Feels like this when you stressed out. Get my head all the way down. It's a maze when you get down. I'm already lost. The way when I come down. I'm not able to get out alive.
Okay, so I kind of searched for a point where things felt like they were starting to collapse a little bit, or kind of distort here and there. And then some of the other stuff I was listening for is like, what's it doing to the top end of the mix? As soon as I put it in, I noticed a change in the EQ. So there's something going on before I turn any of the knobs. There's some things happening. I felt the center dip ever so slightly. which means that there might be some processing happening between the level of the center and the sides. And I think one thing to check out here is I'm going to turn the loud knob all the way down, and then I'm going to experiment with just turning wide on and off and see if I'm hearing something just from the plugin being instantiated. So here we go. We'll start in bypass and then I'll open it up. And I don't want us to play too many video games, so I'm going to turn decibel off so we're not looking at the level the whole time. Here we go.
Get up, but it falls down to the floor, and you're on the boulevard of your soul. It's so empty when you look around. Whoa. Top of the rainstone, and I'm coming through the clouds in the same zone. Catch me in the sky when the rain fall, raincoat. Able to sink, but I'ma drown if I stay afloat. That's how the game goes. Maybe it'll change though. My feelings, maybe I'm like Wayne though. No sinner, I ain't gotta slide when I'm home just to get me on the base. Finish up the race.
Feels like this when you stressed out. Get my head on the way.
Okay, let's focus to the level of his vocal in the center of the image, and I'm going to turn the wide circuit on and off as we listen here. Guys, also in the chat, Music Hack has joined the chat, so the creators are in the chat room. If you guys have questions for him, feel free to drop them in there. I'm sure that they'll be here to answer some questions and comments. That's awesome. Welcome, guys. So here we go. So wide is turned off, and again, we're going to focus on the level of the vocal in the center.
On the base, finish up the race.
Feels like this when you stressed out. Get my head on the way down.
So it's so empty when you look around. Whoa. Top of the rainstone, and I'm coming through the clouds in the same zone. Catch me in the sky when the rain fall, raincoat. Able to sink, but I'ma drown if I stay afloat. That's how the game goes. Maybe it'll change though. My feelings, maybe I'm like Wayne though. No sinner, I ain't gotta slide when I'm home just to get me on the base. Finish up the race. Hey.
Okay, ever so slight. So I'll leave it on. Let's put this back up around where we had it. Here we go. Check that out.
So it's so empty when you look around. Whoa. Top of the rainstone, and I'm coming through the clouds in the same zone. Catch me in the sky when the rain fall, raincoat. Able to sink, but I'ma drown if I stay afloat. That's how the game goes. Maybe it'll change though. My feelings, maybe I'm like Wayne though. No sinner, I ain't gotta slide when I'm home just to get me on the base. Finish up the race.
Feels
Hey.
like this when you stressed out.
All right, so that's cool. Let's play around with the EQ a little bit. Here we go.
Get my head on the way down. It's a maze when you get down. I'm already lost. The way when I come down, I'm not able to get out alive. Get my head on the way down. It's a maze when you get down. I'm already lost. The way when I come down, I'm not able to get out alive.
All right, cool. I got some basic settings. Things are getting a little crunchy in the bottom end. We got some other options to play with here at the bottom, but I just want to see if I get something cool out of the wide settings. So let's find out.
Get my head on the way down. It's a maze when you get down. I'm already lost. The way when I come down, I'm not able to get out alive.
Okay, so just going quickly, sort of as the manual recommended, to just move very broadly and kind of quick without overthinking it too much on those top 4 controls. I've got something that feels kind of cool. Some of the stuff I'm listening for is like, am I changing the groove of the song by doing some of that clipping and limiting? Is it pulling out kick and sway between the kick and the backbeat? And are things still kind of like vibing along the right way, or is it just sucking all the dynamic life out of it and therefore flattening the groove and my body's not moving anymore? So I've found a general setting where I'm kind of happy. Let's play around first with the thick knob, which is going to enable some additional saturation. I don't think I'm going to need a ton of this because I'm already hearing saturation on the brink of too much for me, but let's just see what we get.
Get my head on the way down. It's a maze when you get down. I'm already lost. The way when I come down, I'm not able to get out alive.
Okay, that doesn't suck. I actually kind of like it. So let's just move on quickly and just kind of keep thinking fast here. So here's clean. This is to remove a buildup of sound in the low mid. So we'll see what happens there.
Down, in my head on the way down. It's a maze when you get down. I'm already lost. The wave when I come down. I'm not able to get out alive.
Maybe just a touch of this is cool. Rich did a killer job mixing this, and it doesn't sound overly muddy to me. So I'm just going to leave a dab of that there. Next up, we have the multi-section. So when I enable that, I get three tiny faders here to adjust. And I kind of wish that these were a little bit bigger, but maybe that's part of the vibe is, again, without the overthinking it, we don't even know where the frequency bands are for this multi-band compressor. So let's just play around and see what happens. Here we go.
Down, in my head on the way down. It's a maze when you get down. I'm already lost. The wave when I come down. I'm not able to get out
Cool. So on that mid band, it felt like the release is somewhat slow. I could feel like the groove kind of moving in and out on it when I was obviously way too high. But that is something I like to do is just like push things way too far to hear what happens when they're pushed to extremes and then dial into taste. So that helps me hear the plugin a little bit. Moving on to the high band.
down, in my head on the way down. It's a maze when you get down. I'm already lost. The wave when I come down. I'm not able to get out alive.
So it is smoothing out the top of it. One thing I want to try is what if I just come back on this EQ? Maybe I don't need that. Let's see.
Down, in my head on the way down. It's a maze when you get down. I'm already lost. The wave when I come down. I'm not able to get out alive.
Cool. I think I'm happy there. Let's find out what happens with smooth. So this is very gentle compression that smooths out the overall sound. Here we go.
Down, in my head on the way down. It's a maze when you get down. I'm already lost. The wave when I come down. I'm not able to get out alive. Down, in my head on the way down. It's a maze when you get down. I'm already lost. The wave when I come down.
So one thing I was checking for there is I wanted to know, I'm just trying to figure out what the signal flow of this circuit is. So is the smooth reacting to how loud the loud is? Is loud happening post all of these other processes? All of that. Music hack. I believe that you could talk on this in the chat if you guys are there. I would love to know what you think. And one thing I want to point out is like the support over in the chat here is killer. Like check this out. If you guys look through, so Skimmy says my first day using it and it's already replacing my other master bus limiter. Martin says, Skimmy, it's that good? Skimmy says, I'd say it worked really well for the session I was mixing. I need some more days on it, but so far so good. And one other fun thing, like I'll just, while I'm kind of chatting here, check this out. So they happen to win over Gear Space, and I'm pretty sure if you win over Gear Space, you get a free vacation to an island that is uninhabited, or one with that's all inclusive depending on your style. I think you even get to choose because winning over Gear Space is probably one of the hardest things that you could do, period. So yeah, there were some really good comments on here. When I was just kind of like browsing through, I was actually really surprised. In fact, the biggest complaint from Gear Space 4 days ago was that people couldn't pay for it using PayPal. That was their biggest like negative check mark on there. And when we were looking at the site, you'll notice that they added payments for PayPal within 4 days. So it's cool to know that they're paying attention and that they're on this. Okay, so going back over, here we are back in Pro Tools land. There we go. All right, back to the music. Okay, so let's go over. Next up is the calm knob. So calm says that it reduces harshness that builds up during lots of in-the-box processing. Let's find out.
In my head on the way down, it's a maze when you get down. I'm already lost, the way when I come down, I'm not able to get out alive.
Okay, so that was definitely doing some things. I feel like it was maybe making some holes when I pushed it to extremes, right? But backing it down, there was some stuff I liked. It kind of contained some of the brighter things in the mix that I felt like I liked this shelf on the top end, but I wasn't crazy about pushing the high band of the multi-band compressor too much and doing it that way. So that's interesting. You've kind of got three different ways to deal with some of the stuff up top. This 2x button says that when calm is enabled, this doubles the amount of frequencies affected by calm. Let's play with it and see.
In my head on the way down, it's a maze when you get down. I'm already lost, the way when I come down, I'm not able to get out
It's definitely rounding things out, maybe containing them a little bit more. It might be a little much. That would be, kind of a two-taste thing. And last up, we have tape, which enables analog tape physical modeling. So hysteresis, head bump, high roll-off. Let's take off the calm since it's going to be touching the top and just see what the tape does to it. Here we go.
in my head on the way down, it's a maze when you get down. I'm already lost, the way when I come down, I'm not able to get out alive.
Cool. So there's some other stuff going on in the bottom. I think I liked this setting. So let's do a before and after. So here's our before.
In my head on the way down, it's a maze when you get down. I'm already lost, the way when I come down, I'm not able to get out alive.
After.
In my head on the way down, it's a maze when you get down. I'm already lost, the way when I come down, I'm not able to get out alive.
Cool. So I don't hate what's going on. Let's see what happened to our level from this whole thing. So here is, let me bring master plan back up here. Here's our before, looking at decibel. They also have their own meters down here, so you don't need decibel, but I just like the visual. Here we go.
In my head on the way down, it's a maze when you get down. I'm already lost, the way when I come down, I'm not able to get out alive.
Okay, so the important number for me here is the true dyne short term. So that would be equivalent to the crest reading that they have inside of the plugin. This is a dynamic mix. It's got 13.5 dB of dynamic range at this point that I've played. The LUF short term is minus 12.5. Let's turn on master plan and just see what happened. I'm going to turn off Unity. So everybody watch your speakers. We're going to go up a couple dB. Here we go.
In my head on the way down, it's a maze when you get down. I'm already lost, the way when I come down, I'm not able to get out alive.
Okay, so one thing for me is I usually like my true peak to be at -1. We have our output knob here. Let's just put that at -1 and it should manage that for us. Let's see what we get. I'm going to hit reset. Here we go.
In my head on the way down, it's a maze when you get down. I'm already lost, the way when I come down, I'm not able to get out alive.
Little bit of a discrepancy between what Decibel's reporting and what Master Plan's reporting. Not going to worry about it too much right now. You guys can kind of look through that. Let's go back over to Master Plan and just look into the back panel here. So we've got a little gear icon. Let's see if there's something else to talk about. So we've got the credits here. So again, conceptually, Stan Green behind this worked on the signal chain. So Stan Green would be the Jason Joshua of God Plan or not God Plan, sorry, excuse me, God Particle for Master Plan. So Stan Green, great job on this. Coding done by Sam Fishman. You guys can check them out on Instagram. All that. Down below, you got the user guide, release notes, legal stuff. And then we've got the option to change our faceplate color. That's nice. Here's our white faceplate. All right. Kind of like it. LED color, if you want to play with that. What it does with the colors, these knobs were all pulsing different colors. You can change that in there. And then we've got our meter targets, whether those are on or off. Off by default, it looks like. So cool. So that was our Rich Keller song. Let's go on to something else totally different. So one bias that I have, this is totally like a me thing, and it's in my head. When I see a plugin like that, I'm instantly thinking like this is like in the ozone kind of thing. This is for people who like they don't want to learn mastering, or they're focused on production. Like maybe this is just geared toward producers, etc. And then I think pop music or things that are more electronic based. So I thought, wouldn't it be fun to get something from Matt Ross Spang recorded at Sam Phillips Recording with Eli Paperboy Reed and try it on that? Totally not any of those things that I described. And of course, those are like my own little biases that I think of when I see plugins like this. But so here we go. I've got Master Plan pulled up. This song is called Just As Long As You Want Me. And we'll listen to a little bit in bypass. I'm going to go to a song or a section later in the song. Here we go. So totally different vibe. Let's see how we do. So I'm going to move very quickly and just try to dial something in. I'm going to start again with it with Unity gain on, so I'm not fooled by loudness. And I'm just going to turn my true peak down. Actually, no, we won't do that because we're going to be A-Bing. So let's go minus 0.1 for a fair comparison. And here we go. I will be right here. I never could love you. Tell me why would I even try indeed. So honey, before you go, I just want you to know that I'll always care. Anytime that you want, anytime that you need, I will be right. Well, this one's tricky, right? Because we've got a lot of natural analog saturation on the vocal. We've got the guitar that's pretty loud on the left. And things already have a saturation to them. One thing I'm noticing as I push this like crazy is it takes a while before I hear it kicking in. Now, this is a much quieter mix. You can even see it from the waveforms, all of that. But I was finding it to be pretty transparent up until the point that it wasn't. So that's interesting. Let's go through. We'll play with some EQ stuff and just see what else we get. I'm just gonna dial this in and not talk too much. Here we go. I will be right here. I never could love you. Tell me why would I even try indeed. So honey, before you go, I just want you to know that I'll always care. Anytime that you want, anytime So sorry, I am going to talk for a second because one thing that I think I love is as I was saying before, like I on the mix tank takeovers, one of the big things that I comment on so many mixes is when artificial stereo widening happens, you get all of this phasey stuff, and it usually just kind of drives me crazy and doesn't sound good to my ear. But one thing I'm noticing when I push this one is I don't hear the phasiness stuff happening on the sides. It's getting wider, and it's more of a like changing the balance between the mid and the side signals than it is using phase tricks to smear it and spread it out. So I'm getting width without the phase side effects. Just need to be cognizant of what's happening to the center of the record and is it going back too far, and regular stuff that you would just decide when you're figuring out your mid-side balance. But I'm not hearing all the phase trick stuff, which, like, thank you. Thank you, guys. So let's keep playing. Here we go.
I will be right here. I never could love you. Don't tell me why would I bother even trying, dear. So honey, before you go, I just want you to know that I'll
I think just a dab will do me here because I've got a really loud guitar on the left side, and I feel like the sides are already pretty high in this mix. The elements that are on the sides are really high, just in how Matt decided to mix this. So let's go on. We'll play around with some of the buttons on the bottom. So thick, again, is our saturation circuit. Here we go.
I will be right here. I never could love you. Don't tell me why would I bother even trying, dear. So honey, before you go, I just want you to know that I'll always care. Anytime that you want, anytime that you need, I will be right here. Watching the clock go low. Anytime that you need, I will be right here. I never could love you. Don't tell me why would I bother.
So I'm hearing processing on this as soon as I'm bringing it in. It feels a little heavy-handed without me touching anything on there. So I think that there's just some processing happening inherently from bringing it in. Let's move on to smooth.
I will be right here. I never could love you. Don't tell me why would I bother even trying, dear. So
As a very quick, just moving through it thing, I like some of the glue that's happening here. It's balancing out what's happening in the center versus some of the side information for me. There's not really anything to adjust here, so it's either you like it or you don't. We'll just leave it on and keep moving.
I will be right here. I never could love you. Don't tell me why would I bother even trying, dear. So honey, before you go, I just want you to know that I'll always care. Anytime that you want, anytime that you need.
Cool. So tape was doing a cool thing where it's smoothing stuff out, but I don't want to take too much of the life out of it, so I'm skipping it on this one. Let's take it out of Unity. Everybody watch your speakers. Here comes some level. Here we go.
I will be right here. I never could love you. Don't tell me why would I bother even trying, dear.
So I'm completely blown away that it was that loud. That's not what I was expecting to see on there. And I got to be honest, like my first instinct, as soon as I heard it louder too, because obviously the volume in the room came up, my speakers are louder. I heard some saturation I wasn't digging that I didn't hear when I had the volume a little lower. That's just from where I'm monitoring at. I'm about 65, 70 dB right now. And I'd probably just keep tweaking a little bit, but also I can't believe I just went that loud. So I kind of believe I would win a loudness war with this from that. Okay. So there it is on that one. there was something else I wanted to point out. Oh, I wanted to do a little story time. This is a real world thing that happened to me while I was checking out an early version of this plugin. I was working with an amazing group who's very sensitive to groove, and meaning like one of the members totally hears attack and release constants on compression and all that if I'm doing like stereo bus stuff, and we're always making sure that we're not fighting the groove when we're working on their music. And they had a master done by a great mastering engineer, and it came back and the groove wasn't quite right, and I think it's because that particular individual who's very sensitive to timing just wasn't in the room and able to comment back and forth. But we decided to try doing a master, and I was like, hey, I just got this thing from a friend of mine, let's try it out. And we put this on there, and we did some other stuff. We didn't do the whole, like, I didn't download my plugins onto a USB stick and bring them out and throw them in the street and all that. But we did use this as a final stage just to see what would happen. We replaced Pro L2, my limiter that I use most of the time. And we just played around, and we wound up coming out with a master that is probably going to be the release. And I was kind of surprised because I didn't know how it would work out. So that's just a little aside. I've already had some success with this plugin, which is cool. Okay, so I've got a couple more mixes to play with here. I've got one from an artist named Mr. Emotional. This is a rough mix that came in from Angel Lopez, the producer. And Angel is amazing. He's got some other stuff on the site. We did a Between Two Shires with him with his production partner Fede and Andrew Sheps. That's hilarious. You got to check that out. But he recently did Jack Harlow's record, and I got to work with him on that. And he's amazing. So let's see. This is going to be his rough mix, and then we'll just see if we can add anything to the pile with a little master plan. So let me go to our XL size. I'm going to throw it in bypass, and let's take a listen.
You said you love somebody else. I can't do a thing about it. I can only trust myself. Yeah. 'Cause all
Guys, useful thing from the guys from Music Hack in the chat. We'll take a look at that. So they said, I might have already gone by a little bit too much in the window to show you guys, but they put the chain in there. Maybe guys, if you're still here, if you would put that in the chat again for them. But the chain is EQ to the wide circuit, to the smooth circuit if it's on, then the multipressor, then saturation, then loud circuit, then the output filter if enabled. So that's something that's useful. And then they said, advanced tip, if you have an already saturated mix, you can lower the input, disable thick, and make up for it in the loud section. Effectively, that's the opposite of clicking the thick button. So cool. This mix that I just played over here in Pro Tools land. Let's go back here. So this is Pro Tools land. This had a whole lot of bottom, and it's a little bit saturated. So I'm going to try out this trick here. Okay, so let's pull it up. And they said pull back the input, disable thick, and make up for it in loud. Yeah, okay, that's what's in there. So here we go. Let's play. Of course, I have Unity on, which is offsetting the effect of the loud button. So let me turn that off. And we're down 3, 7, 8, and up 4-ish and some change. So here we go. Okay, so this guy could use a little bit of the clean, I'm sure, and maybe we'll play with this low band. Okay. Okay, cool. So I just kind of moving quickly found some stuff that I dug. Pulling up Decibel to look at it, I added some volume to it, which is a challenge because this was already a limited thing, as you can see. Um, and yeah, it's cool. I That's a rough mix, so that's not really a mastering situation. But if I had to add some volume for the client or something like that, that would help me do it pretty quick. So next up, I've got one more dynamic thing to check out from Fab DuPont. That's a mix of lifeboats, which on the series or on the site you can see Chris Lord-Alge, John Paterno, Andrew Sheps, Vance Powell, Fab DuPont, and a couple other Mick Guzowski, Jakir King. All of those guys mix the exact same song, which is amazing. You can watch them all do it from scratch and see how like those 6 or 7 different engineers all approach the same song. Check that out on puremix.com. And then the last mix that we'll check out is from a band called The Literate Light that was produced and recorded by Vance Powell and mixed by Vance Powell. The song's called Sweet Beast. We have a start to finish on the series, or start to finish series on Puremix, where you can watch all of that song from the conceptualization, them writing the song, all the way to the final mix with Vance wrapping it up, which is super cool. Before we do that, I want to do what we do on the show sometimes, and we're going to analyze this plugin. So I have talked about Bartom's EQ curve analyzer on the show before, and we're going to put an instance of that up. So this is going to be EQ curve analyzer. We put one at the beginning of the chain, and then we'll put one at the end of the chain. And that guy is the generator. This guy is the guy who reports what happens in a plugin. So this is somewhat similar to doing like a plugin doctor thing, but not quite as advanced. So we're not going to look at like harmonic saturation or any of that stuff. We're just kind of look at EQ curves, which is going to be useful for us to figure out what's going on with the high and the low shelf and so on. So let's put in master plan here. Here we go. All right, load it up. And let me bring up EQ curve analyzer. Okay, so I haven't tweaked any settings yet. Let me make these a little bit bigger so everybody can see what's happening. This is going into unexpected bypass. Let's see. Let's turn that on. Okay, cool. All right, so master plan is bypassed. Let me make this guy a little bit bigger. And looking at the EQ curve, this is an EQ curve that's on by default when this plugin is instantiated. Let's see what happens if we bring down the input volume. That curve is not really changing. Cool, based on how hard we're hitting it or anything. If I throw it in bypass, our curve goes back to flat. Turning it on, we have our curve back instantiated. So there's a bit of a low bump below. Well, one, we have about a 0.4 dB bump in loudness at the lowest point, which is around 180. And then we're back up by the time that we're back around 80. All of this stuff, like I talked about it when we talked about this analyzer thing. This is not something to freak out about and like lose all of your time into going and seeing what all of your plugins are, but these are useful things to look at. It is doing like kind of a natural mastering move, which is to do a dB bump up around 1K. And then we've got a gentle roll off on the top. It looks like that starts around 13, 14K-ish. And all of that's going to change, I'm sure, as we play with some stuff here. But it's good to know that there's a natural curve that happens on top of the thing. So we'll play with the low band here. I'm going to just crank it and see where it's reaching up to. So this is kind of like Pultec stylish. And really all I mean by that is that it's very broad. So we're not like just boosting 60 dB down or 100 down or something like that. So looks like it reaches up to like 800-ish or something like that. So cool. Good to know. Now never think about it again and just use your ears. And then we'll crank up the top end and same kind of thing. So very wide band EQ. Good to know. Okay. Let me take wide out. That doesn't change anything in the frequency spectrum. Loud now. Okay, so if the loud circuit is engaged, we get that gentle roll off on top. If it's not on, we have a little bit more of a top end bump. Again, just good to know. Let's turn on thick, which is just saturation, but if we crank it, we just get volume, clean. This will be interesting. So down at 0, nothing. Well, yeah, there's still a little bit of a drop. Just having it engaged. It looks like this is happening around 180, 200. And then let's crank it up and we get a dip in there. So that dip looks like it's happening around 200. We'll take that out. We got our multiband. I'm not sure what we'll see here because it's just feeding an impulse signal into the plugin. So might not see anything change. We're not seeing anything change. Boring. All right, so we'll turn that off. Here's smooth. Smooth is the compression circuit, not changing the frequency response. Calm. Okay, so here we got some interesting stuff. So if I turn on calm, we got some dips that are sharp Q happening at 4K. I'm going to guess 8K, and probably 16 would be the other octave. So giving us some dips at the 50% mark. We're coming down, let's see, we're coming down maybe a dB and a half at the first point, probably a dB at the second point, and then a little less up at the third point. And it's doing a little bit more of a top end roll off. So cranking those down will obviously give us more notches. And then I'm guessing 2X is going to add individual points, probably in between the octaves. So 4K, without 2X, it's at 8K. With 2X, we're dipping at the octave in between that. So 6K, I'm going to guess 12K on up. Okay, cool. Good to know. Never think about it again. Just use your ear. Here's the tape. So if I turn off tape, here's our curve. Turning it on, we get a bump at 80. And then looks like it's preserving some stuff there. We got a little bit of a low roll off. And then let's see what happens when we crank it. So this kind of reminds me of what happens with like the ATR. Obviously all changes based on the formula that you use with the ATR, but that looks like a tape curve. And then just for kicks, here's the NS10 curve. Here's the phone curve. Our band limited curve. And that's it. Cool. Those other guys are just mono and dim function. So, all right, there it is. That's our whole analyzer portion of this. That's useful to do one time and then never think about again and just use your ears from there. So we've done it. Okay. I'm going to bypass all these guys so they don't crash my system. That plugin likes to crash my system. And let's go check out Lifeboats. This is mixed by Fab DuPont. And then we'll do the Illiterate Light one last here. So let's put on Master Plan. And I'll throw it in bypass and let's take a listen to this section of the song.
And rescue me. And in these waters that I've chosen, every promise that I've broken has pulled me to the ocean floor. I don't deserve 1,000 chances that your faith in
Okay, so what I'm doing here is based on something that Music Hack put into the chat there about the signal chain of it. So I lowered the input because I liked what the smooth function was doing, the compression function of the plugin. I liked what it was doing to kind of rein that snare in, but I felt like every time that it was hitting, it was pulling the vocal back. So naturally, I wouldn't want to hit that compressor as hard, but there's no threshold setting on this compressor, so I'll just hit it with less level, and then hopefully I'll get some of that compression on the snare, but not affect the vocal as hard. That's my line of thinking there. That's why I did that. So moving on, here we go. And again, I'm just trying to do like very broad stroke. Like I'm almost treating this as, you know, if I was at the end of a rough mix from a tracking date or something like that, and I wanted to dial it in, this is how quickly I'd try to move for it. So here we go.
And rescue me. And in these waters that I've chosen, every promise that I've broken has pulled me to the ocean floor. I don't deserve the thousand chances that your faith in me has granted, but just one more is all I need. And rescue me. And in these waters that I've chosen, every promise that I've broken has pulled me to the ocean floor. I don't deserve the thousand chances that your faith in me has granted, but just one more is all I need. And rescue me. And in these waters that I've chosen, every promise that I've broken has pulled me to the ocean floor. I don't deserve the thousand chances that your faith in me has granted, but just one more is all I need. And rescue me. And in these waters that I've chosen, every promise that I've broken has pulled me to the ocean floor. I don't deserve the thousand chances.
Cool. I don't hate what's going on there. It's transparent. I've like pulled it back to the point where I felt like I wasn't destroying the mix. And just for kicks, let's see let's see where I got to on the loud thing. This is the problem with having a knob that says loud on your plugin, is like now I'm paying attention to how loud things are.
That your faith in me has granted, but just one more is all I need.
I got to take it out of Unity Gain. Everybody, watch your speakers. Here we go.
Ooh. So call out your lifeboats, honey, I'm all at sea. Could you be my lighthouse, honey?
All right, this thing's awesome for playing video games for sure. The Clipper limiter circuit is extremely transparent. This is what I've found as I've been using it on other sessions too. Is just it's working really well. There's less thought involved than when I'm using my Pro L2 or something. There's also less ability to dial in attack and release time constants and kind of make a groove happen with it. But for a quick and dirty thing to turn this up, if things feel good and it's not affecting the groove in a negative way, this is working pretty awesome, and it sounds more transparent without a lot of tweaking than my Pro L2 does. So I'm digging this thing a lot. Let's do one more. So this is going to be Vance Powell, Illiterate Light, Sweet Beast, and I'll throw on Master Plan here, and we're just going to move super fast through this one. Here we go.
So hard to escape. Alright, baby, alright. Can we find another way?
So with the natural curve of things, there is something that happens on the top end. It adds like a top sheen to me, which isn't going to be perfect for everything. Just taking it out of bypass, I'm hearing that. We saw the curve on the analyzer and all that, but I'm hearing something else up top. On the pop stuff I've used it on, and on the pop tracks that we've done today, I think it works really well. I think it did really great on the Matt Ross Spang track as well. I was hearing a little bit of like something in the top that I wasn't crazy about, where it was almost like I wanted to throw my backs on there and do like a high or a low pass filter. And I hear that a little bit on this track too, as soon as I come out of bypass. Let's play around with the features, like doing some things with Calm. We'll mess around with the tape thing a little bit, maybe the multi-band, and see if I, kind of round off that thing that I'm hearing, which again, like felt really great on the pop tracks. But first impression on this track, it hits me as, I don't know if that's the right tone for this, but let's find out. I also hear the center being dipped back a little bit, so I'm going to turn off the wide. Okay, and just a little bit of the Calm kind of took care of it for me. So I'll see if I can open up the top a little bit without offsetting that thing I was chasing. Okay, here's something to notice too. I turned up the input because I wanted some more glue out of this compressor, and I felt like I wasn't hitting wherever the threshold is. As soon as I turn this on, you'll notice that there's some feedback happening on the lights here. So I'm guessing that that might be gain reduction. Let's find out. Yeah, it looks like it. So that's a little bit of feedback for the gain reduction on the smooth circuit. Let's keep playing. All right, so I'm in Unity gain, but I'm doing some things with the input. So if I want to be true to that, I'm going to have to dip the output back, I'm guessing. So we'll go minus 3.84. There we go. Let's do our AB. Okay, I'm going to focus on the section at the end here, and what I'm listening for is the punch of the snare. Am I destroying it? So here we go on this section. I could live with that. Let's see. We'll go back to -1 for true peak, and we'll find out in video game world where we landed on the loudness thing. I don't want to make this all about loudness because there's some other useful stuff that's happening here, but let's just play a section, see what happened over in decibel. Here we go.
Sweet beast on a sweet.
And I'm going to turn off Unity. Everybody watch your speakers. Here we go.
Sweet beast on a sweet leash, trying so hard to escape. Alright, baby, alright. Can we find another?
Yeah, as soon as I'm coming up on the volume, I'm hearing some other stuff that I would want to address in the upper mids. I think it's above where Calm's dealing with things. Maybe it would be a workout in the multiband thing a little bit, or maybe I just drop another plugin in there. But I guess the main point of this whole thing to me is I've got some useful tools with the low band and high band EQ, the saturation circuit with the thick, clean, multi, smooth, calm. All those are, for me, they're like turn them on, dial them in quickly, see if you like it. If not, don't use it. But the power of this to me is in the loud knob. So in that clipper and limiter, I like what's happening in there. It's another flavor, and I can say without a doubt that this is a tool that I'm going to be reaching for, if not just for the loud feature and that limiter and clipper. I think it sounds great. I think it's transparent, and it's a nice alternative to some of the other things that I have in my arsenal. I really dig it. I gotta say, I think like Music Hack took on a very hard task with this plugin of making a loudness plugin that is in the vein of a one knob with some more useful features. There's, some of us like dinosaur engineers, I guess I would say. I don't know what the right phrase for this would be, but some of us would, that kind of like stray away from the stuff. We're like, oh, we want to tweak all our time constants and all that stuff. Again, normally, like, this is the kind of thing that I look at and I'm like, I don't know. But I tried it. I was amazed by the sound, and they won over Gear Space, so I think it's just kind of game over. This is a cool plugin. Everybody should try out the demo. There you go. That's my 2 cents on it. If you guys have any questions on this, let me know. We'll put some stuff in there. So Music Hack has put some things in the chat here for us too. Thanks for tuning in, guys. It's awesome to have you here. Hope I did you proud. So let's see. There is the indicator light in the upper right means it's clipping into the saturation. That makes sense because input is above 0 right now, but the loud circuit will work to pull it back. Cool. It just means you're working on the saturator and loud circuit hard. Always use your ears. Nice. Cool. Music Hack, do you want to see me pull that back? Let me know. That was probably what I was hearing in the snare too. So I'll wait and see if you guys have any questions. While I'm doing that, guys, if you have a plugin that you would like to see featured on the show, we'll be back in 2 weeks to do some more. And in other news, while I'm waiting to see if Music Hack has a tip for me on this master, I am converting this room to a Dolby Atmos room, which is all kinds of anxiety inducing. I've got like boxes piled up behind me over here that you can't see off camera. It's going to be a Focal system integrated with my Key 3s. I've got Demon for tuning from Trinov. That's really exciting. And basically, as soon as I hit stop streaming on here, I'm going to start tearing apart a room that I've been putting together for the last 7 years, which is stressing me out a little bit. I know how this room sounds right now, and I'm so happy in stereo, but I've got to make some changes to the room overall to make it work for Atmos. And it's going to be crazy. So yeah, wish me luck, because this is like the last thing that I'm doing in here before the tear out and the whole install. So it's going to be crazy. All right, Music Hack says, give it a shot. All right, I think what we're giving a shot is I'm dipping the input back, and then we're going to compensate on loud. Let me know if that's right. We'll see if we get some more life out of the snare. And then we'll let everybody get back to mixing. Okay. Let's go over to this section again at the end. And here we go. Yeah, I got some life back in the snare. Awesome. So yeah, do some proper gain staging. That input knob seems like it's very important. Um, awesome, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. One thing before I get out of here that I got to point out, I almost forgot. I'm so sorry. So if this plugin has an update, this is really cool because they were putting out new versions very quickly before their launch. And there is a update notification that happens below the gear icon. When you click the gear icon and there's an update to do, there's a download button right inside of it, which makes updating the plugin super easy. Instead of having to go to a website and then scroll for the download thing, that was just something that I thought was really useful and a nice addition to a plugin. So kudos to you guys for throwing that in there. I don't know. I'm sure that there's maybe some other plugin that does it, but it was the first time that I saw one that was doing it that easily, where I just got the installer and I didn't have to go through a web page and search for things. So that was a really cool feature. It's a very light thing, but great job. That's good development right there. So guys, amazing. This is a blast and I'm excited to find this thing. It does give me confidence going forward that, you know, when I get a rough that's ungodly loud, I'll be able to send one back that is maybe more reasonable, but like not destroying the dynamics of the mix. And I just know that this is going to be a useful tool going forward. So 2 thumbs up from me, and thank you guys all for tuning in. Look forward to seeing you on the next one. Please, again, do all of the like and subscribe stuff, and we'll see you guys next time. All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye.